Hello, folks, and welcome to another video of mine. And well, as you see, I don't have to say it, but I will say it anyway. The background, it says globalism. Obviously, the topic of this video is going to be on globalism. And along with that, why globalism? I want to set the context a little better than that. In what context? As it is a huge topic. What aspect of globalism? And I wanna talk about in this video. And by the way, before I start, I wanna mention that I'm planning actually another more detailed, more formally prepared video with visuals, graphs, tables, outline material, topics, and all related to again the comparable topic, the globalism within the context of many things. But again, we have to narrow it down, particularly 2024 elections in America, and what's going on today in the United States. Especially the number one topic is being, which will be one of the most important determining factors of the election, uh, which is none other than illegal immigration. And of course, the economy, inflation, the wars, Ukraine-Russia war, Israel war, Israel and the war in Gaza, all those. So again, all these things, all these topics, I want to touch base them from the perspective of globalism, as I believe nothing is happening haphazardly, nothing is happening randomly. None of these events are taking place in a kind of a vacuum, in an insulated manner. And none of them are isolated events. They're all related to each other. They're all part of a huge, big, major, mega plan, which is nothing other than globalization, globalist agenda, in one world order. So, as you can see, I'm going to repeat anyway those four items under globalism. And can you handle progress? The one world government, the ultimate goal of the globalist ambitions. No sovereignty, meaning no nation would be sovereign nation. That means, in more plain terms, no nation, no national borders, no nationality, just one global entity governed by one world global government. Political correctness. Political correctness has been a tool that was carefully designed to shape people's minds because it's a well known thing. The words or the phrases that people use in their daily lives to refer to things that they need to refer to eventually shape their philosophies, their way of thinking. The way the brain works is amazing. The words and phrases you use on a daily basis eventually shape your way of thinking. They're coming up with political correctness is a huge weapon. It is weaponized by globalists to get people think along the ways that they want them to think, because they want the public to be aligned in their thinking with their visions. And the final item, open borders. I repeat the final item, open borders. We all know what's going on. We all are witnessing what's going on right now in the United States under the term illegal immigration. So I will be during this video, I will try to pay attention and try to be careful with the words and phrases that I'm using to make point uh, to political correctness and not to be subject of their goal. So I'll be careful with that. Number one thing is the term illegal immigrant is actually a wrong term. The best definition is illegal alien. I repeat, it is not illegal immigrant, it's illegal alien because immigration uh, is in and of itself is not a crime. Migrant person is not a criminal. A refugee person is not a criminal. A person who is seeking asylum in a different another nation other than his or her own nation is not inherently a criminal because all these are legal statuses. Therefore, the term illegal immigrant in and itself is illogical. It doesn't make sense. An immigrant is not a criminal. What is criminal is an illegal alien or alien the moment he or she crosses the American border from south becomes illegal because he or she crosses the border illegally. At that moment, that person is committing a crime and should be considered and labeled as illegal alien. And that person should be treated and handled accordingly by the books, the immigration laws on the books. The open border is, as you see, is one of the very important items that is listed under the globalist agenda. Just like the one world government, just like no sovereignty, which is actually highly related to the ambitious goal of no sovereignty for nations. And hence the political correctness going along with that. I just explained that illegal immigrant and illegal alien, the difference between those terms. So let's be careful. Anytime you use the term illegal immigrant, you force yourself to say, at least think in your mind, we're talking about illegals, meaning illegal aliens. So now, okay, now what are we talking about here? Everybody I know, we're all witnessing, right? We're all witnessing what's going on. The United States right now does not have any border. The border lost its meaning thanks to the governor, Texas governor, Greg Abbott. He started an enormously ambitious and bold project, and he actually continues on the wall, the building the wall, and all the other precautions to be able to control the illegal crossings from from the Mexican border. So let's see what's happening. Why is it that right after right after Biden took power, January 2021, the first thing immediately, the first thing he did was to reverse the laws uh, on the books, immigration that Trump came up with. And why is it that since he did that, approximately within the last 3 years, about 10 million, give and take 10 million illegals entered this country. None of them are vetted. None of them are vetted. Among them, we all know lots of criminals, lots of terrorists. We don't even know who they are, where they are, what they're up to. Particularly looking at the uh, 73%, approximately 73% of those are young males within the military age. Average age is between 18 to 28 to 30. Overwhelming majority do not have women, babies, children, and elderly. 73% is a huge number out of 10 million people. That's about 7.3 million people, males, young males, within the military age. Let's just stop and think about that, please. Now, let's continue. Um, what's going on? Why is this happening? Obviously, this is the nation of immigrants. It will continue accepting immigrants, and I am one of them. I am a naturalized American citizen, and this country benefited from the contributions of immigrants over decades, over centuries. Immigration built this country, but immigration has to be controlled, has to be managed, has to be gradual, and has to be legal. That's why there is United States Customs and Immigrations Service. The old name was INS, Immigration and Naturalization Services, when I was going through the process, which I became a United States citizen August 15, 2001. It was then INS, Immigration and Naturalization Services. What is expected of an immigrant is learn the language of this country, which is none other than English, or should I call it American. Do your best to understand general laws of this land, the law of the land, culture of the people, and show respect to the culture and values of this country, and do not try to change it according to your liking. And if you think you cannot adapt to these changes, no one is forcing you to stay in this country, as no one forced you to come to this country. Now, let's try all this with globalization and election. The the only reason why Biden administration has been adamantly supporting and facilitating to bring millions upon millions upon millions to this country during his administration is none other than establishing a voter base for the Democratic establishment. None other than securing enough number of electoral college votes and also popular votes. Comes 2024 election in November. That is exactly the agenda that they had from the day one that Biden became president. And with a stroke of a pen, he reversed those four major laws to control the illegal immigration. During the Trump administration, the illegal immigration was absolute lows for the last 45 years by then. By 2017 or 2018, the illegal immigration numbers statistics in this country was absolutely lows within the past 45 years. After Biden came to power, now America is living in a nightmare as far as illegal immigration or illegal handling the illegal aliens. Now one has to ask this question. And one more thing I forgot to say, still Joe Biden with a stroke of a pen again he has the power can stop the illegal immigration. There is no more laws are needed. All he has to do is stick into the currently available laws on the books on immigration laws, and with a stroke of a pen, he can stop the illegal immigration. Yet, he is more than determined not to do that. He will not do it because his strings are being pulled by his masters who are none other than globalists. So what's the goal? What's the plan? The plan is look at one of the items I mentioned: open borders. Not right now. We gotta a little bit step back and talk about the globalist agenda. Those four items that are listed that you can see on my background. Let's kind of touch base those concepts and their significance from the globalist perspectives, from their political agendas perspective, and also understand. Let's look at who the globalists are, what they want, why do they want it. In this country, as we all know, uh, especially big tech companies who have enormous amount of power, international, global power, international banking and finance organizations, along with those tech giants, and they've been forming uh, partnerships with organizations such as uh, United Nations, such as European Union, such as WEF, World Economic Forum. Those folks who are gathering every year in Davos to kind of come to agreement on terms as far as how do we have to shape the world. They have such power. They're attending a levels of power that humanity never seen so far in the history. The amount of financial power that they can command under their control, human history has never witnessed before. Trillions, tens of trillions upon tens of trillions of dollars they are controlling. And they've been establishing this whole globalist agenda. And it's not just the last 5 or 10 or 15, 20 years, many, many, many decades long goal. It's been shaping, it's been taken, kind of its form over decades. And they're challenging all the notions that we're all accustomed to. One of them is national sovereignty, that each sovereign nation having their own borders, and each sovereign nation is supposed to protect and defend their own borders. Nationalism, the concept of nation and flag, the concept of family, which is consist of mother and father and a child or children, the concept of gender, the definition of gender, which is none other than male and female, the sanctity of the marriage, which is only between men and women and none other than men and women. All these concepts, these are beyond concepts. This is how people live. This is how people perceive the world and perceive themselves within their world. This is how societies, this is how people operate. These are the terms and structures: moral, political, economical, social, cultural terms and norms and value systems that people survive in. Societies operate within. And those globalists are up there to destroy everything I just so far counted. They are up there to destroy the family structure entirely. They're up there to destroy moral value systems, respect to parents, respect to nation, that you're part of. Love your flag. Respect your values and flag. Respect the family. Respect the elderly. Raising your own child and loving your own child. Having uh, value systems altogether that makes us human beings. They're against every single of those value systems, and they're only concerned with one thing: utter and complete and entire destruction of what I just try to list, and then establish something else in its place, which they call New World Order. In this New World Order, there will not be nations, thus, there will not be borders. In fact, the open border is a kind of a oxymoron in this case because, well, there won't be any border, open or not, because there won't be any nationality, because there won't be any nation. As you see, it is near impossible to imagine a world that they're imagining. Yet that's the absolute tangible goal they're working towards. So let me ask you this: how can you possibly create this or establish this new world order unless you destroy the currently existing world order? You just cannot. It is such a huge, incredibly ambitious goal that it is impossible to just do it kind of a patching around the current establishment or current system. You just can't do that. What you have to do is to be able to implement the new world order, you have to first destroy the existing order, make people suffer to the greatest extent that they will be so needy and scared and confused to the point of absolute uh, depression, in fact, beyond utter chaos that they're going to be in. So they will be ready to listen to whatever the globalists are offering as a solution. And then they will come and say this: I'm going to save you. We're going to save you from the misery that you're in now. But you have to live your life in our terms. The New World Order is wanting to create one and only one type of human, which will be genderless, which will be entirely 100% and completely depending on the state, which is none other than the one world government. I repeat, one world government that will be controlling every single human being living on earth, and the level of control will be almost up to every breath that he or she takes in calculating the amount of oxygen and carbon dioxide that he or she produces. There won't be cash, there will not be need for cash. Nobody will have the slightest amount of tiniest little amount of property, even. Forget about owning a house, having bank accounts, having stocks and bonds and investments, investing for future, investing for your children, saving money. You're not going to own a car. You're People are not going to own anything because people themselves will be the property and 100% owned by the one world government. And they are smart enough to know that people are not going to give in without fight. And the fight, when I say fight, I mean in every possible sense. It is not necessarily the fight through bullets and guns. I'm talking about the soft war, such as the ones that we're every day witnessing. For instance, in Netflix movies, are you not noticing, compared to 10 years ago, amount of gay and lesbian relationships are being more and more and more normalized? Transgenderism, they're forcing down our throats every single day. This is the soft power that they have. Through the tech giants and their power in digitized world, they will be controlling every single cent that people spend. They're going to do away with the cash completely because it is impossible, near impossible to control all the entire cash movements. And they want to control not even a dollar you spend, but even a cent you spend. You should not have in their eyes accumulating or saving funds, money, making investments. No, 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 no. Big, huge no. You will only work as you're told to, according to their terms, and you will be covered. I'm not going to even call it salary or payment. You will be allowed to have a certain level of existence to be able to serve your functions, which is determined according to their New World Order social structures. In this world, there is no uh, faith, no religion, no consciousness. In this world, there is no love for family, for parents, for child, for friends, for anyone. In this world, uh, there is no such thing as respect to your flag, to your nation, to your history, to your ethnicity, to your ethnic lineages. Everybody has a right to be aware of their ethnic lineage, to be to know what his or her ethnicity did in the past, where they're coming from, what they did, their accomplishments and achievements, and maybe sufferings, all those things. Those are historical facts, and people who are associated with those ethnic lines, they have a right to know all these historical facts. Did you know that today, for instance, in large museums, paintings that are depicting the uh, past towns, old towns, historical sites, uh, scenic paintings representing the past are considered racist. The term racist is applied every possible thing that one cannot even think of. For instance, teaching mathematics in a school system is racist. Did you know that? And they're working on it. I just mentioned, isn't that amazing? The famous paintings depicting the past, racist, because they're representing the racist past in their eyes. This term racism is weaponized to be able to establish the New World Order, which requires the utter destruction of the current existing norms. That's why the term racism, I call it weaponized. That's basically is a weapon, it's a bomb to be used against all things currently existing coming from historical uh, evolutions. In short terms, there won't be anything that we can think now as freedom because our minds, people's minds, will be eventually controlled and literally. Literally, you understand what I mean. Through the technology, 24/7, 365, people will be controlled. So, what kind of a life that would be? But obviously, globalists' agenda is nothing short of what I just tried to describe. I know I could that could have been done a lot better. This is just in more like a conversational, more informal type of recording. This is what I can describe. I believe that is somewhat explaining what it should be like or what it would be like. That's why today we're seeing Biden administration, which is none other than the puppets of the globalists. The Democratic establishment in the United States, should I call it democratic establishment in the United States. Those demon rats are completely and entirely owned and controlled by the globalist agenda. Their masters are the globalists. And one of the examples, when 22-year-old nursing student Lincoln Riley, who was studying at Georgia State University, her major was nursing, when she was killed extremely violently by a Venezuelan illegal alien who was already a criminal in Venezuela. He came out of prison in Venezuela. He violently killed this beautiful nursing student at the age 22, and Biden had the audacity to show up in an interview publicly on public television, and he publicly apologized from that bastard, saying, "I'm sorry to call him illegal alien. He was an undocumented immigrant." He could not even say Lincoln Riley's name. He did not even bother learning her name properly. He did not even bother saying a thing to kind of at least share the pain of her parents. But he apologized from that bastard because his handlers, his globalist masters, wanted him to say that because that's what they want. They want to replace the society and social structure. That's why they put 10 million people illegals in this country, and they will put tens and tens more millions of people they will bring through the open borders because they want to absolutely replace the current existing order and current social structure. And by to do this, they have to create this chaos. They know well that bringing that many people in relatively short amount of time will create this chaos to the point that people will be utterly frustrated and hopeless, and they will come with order. They will come with their solutions, which is none other than what I tried to describe before, according to globalist agenda. That's why they're supporting the open borders. And folks, the illegal immigration is not happening only in the United States, it's happening at the same time in Europe, the entire West, and also Australia. The entire West, all the Western developed nations, are facing and crippling under the weight of the illegal immigration. Do you think, ask yourselves, do you think this is just a randomly happening thing? Do you think there is nothing behind it? And I want to share somebody with you. When I think of globalist agenda, which is the same thing with evil, none other than evil agenda, I think of this man, George Soros, pure 100% absolute evil. None other than George Soros. George Soros, the way his organization works. First off, there are a few uh, things, items listed here that he's responsible for. He's responsible for a whole lot more evil. But, just to kind of give an idea, the Arab Spring, the Ukraine Revolution, anti Trump protests, refugee invasion on Europe, Ferguson protests, Black Lives Matter organization. And how is that, how is his revolutions work? He pays a group to protest, hires snipers and provocateurs to kill or beat them. This creates more and more violence until the government is overthrown, while media shows only one side of the story. This is very simple way of describing how George Soros works. If one analyzes, if you're curious, please go research his organization. His organization is like a huge giant octopus, and its tentacles are basically covering four corners of the world. George Soros represents and funded by the globalist organizations limitless billions or trillions. His organization is representing pure evil because he can destabilize any kind of nationalist government, nationalist organizations. And then his goal, well, he is one of the masterminds or in the service of the masterminds to establish the globalist agenda, which I described before. There you go. You're looking at him. You're looking at the picture of pure evil. So, this is how globalist agenda, and I see George Soros is a kind of like in his propaganda machine or propaganda mechanism, along with the other ways they're interacting with the world governments, European Union, European nations, uh, and all that through various multi layers of societies, from education to healthcare, from entertainment to defense, national defense. They are in everything. They are manipulating the US military establishment. They're manipulating right now, for instance, the British United Kingdom military establishment. They are working utterly precisely to be able to destabilize the existing systems, mechanisms. Do you think it's just a coincidence that in places such as Los Angeles, San Francisco, um, Portland, Oregon, Denver, Colorado, um, Kensington, Philadelphia, when you see masses and upon masses of people who are homeless, who are addicted, who are alcoholic, who are on the streets in in horrible conditions. Every democratically run state and city are showing signs of that kind of direction. Do you think this is just a happenstance? Why do you think they're against Second Amendment? Why do you think they don't want people to own arms? Man, they don't want people to own anything. They don't want people to have the slightest amount of self sufficiency, forget about having the rights to defend themselves using having access to arms. They don't want people to take care of themselves For instance, if you have a little house and little yard, and if you want to raise, for instance, some crops, maybe some tomatoes and cucumbers, some vegetables and stuff, for a little bit of a self-sufficiency, you will be criminal under their system. No one should be self-sufficient because you have to 100% depend on the state, and that state will be not none other than the world government, one world government. In this system, you're seeing the term here behind me, the second one, no sovereignty. Look at this term again, please. What does that tell you? No sovereignty. No nation will be sovereign. The concept of sovereignty will be completely and utterly destroyed. And in fact, the concept of nation will be utterly destroyed. Therefore, today's current events, as far as illegal immigration, and people simply cannot even fathom to understand how is it that the government can do this to his to their own people. How is it that the United States government can do this to their own people? They're causing utter amount of chaos right now. Those sanctuary cities, New York City, Washington D.C., Denver, Colorado, Los Angeles, California, Portland, Oregon, every day, every single day, crime is taking place, which is none other than particularly a migrant crime. And the crime will be only increasing because they will be bringing more and more and more. The only meaningful resistance put up against this invasion started with Greg Abbott in the state of Texas. God bless state of Texas. God bless great governor Greg Abbott. I am fully supporting him and standing with Texas, by the way. And all the other currently 8 states that are openly and explicitly supporting, and not only saying they're supporting, but they're supporting in literal terms as far as sending their National Guard troops to help with Texas National Guard and Texas Guard, State Guard. I'm optimistic guy. I'm an optimistic person. I have a reason to believe, and I have solid reasons to believe, this globalist evil will not be able to reveal. They will not be successful, and people, we, the people, will be successful eventually. I want to talk about what's going on in Europe, Western Europe particularly. Western Europe has been under invasion for decades. Horrible, horrible levels of invasion. There are a lot of stories, horror stories. I'm not going to try to share every one of them, but one of them particularly, which stayed with me, and I want to share that with you. It was several years back. I can't remember what year was it, but it was. I remember that happened New Year's Eve in Germany, in Düsseldorf. There was a huge gathering, just like any other New Year's Eve, for celebrations, New Year's Eve celebrations. I think it was maybe 7 or 8 years ago. I'm not 100% sure about the exact year. Uh, During the celebrations, obviously, there's lots of young people dancing, music, having a good time. And all of a sudden, weird things start happening. A lot of young males, they were going in groups, in fives, eights, six, fours, maybe 20s. A lot of them, they started bothering and harassing first these young girls. At the end of the day, this is a unimaginable thing to say. Over 1,200 girls, or at the end of the night, what you call it, over 1,200 girls were raped. One day, in a single day. In a single day, in the same place. That gathering place, a huge, huge gathering place in Düsseldorf. Some were completely raped, some were groped, some were harassed heavily, some were harassed less heavily, but they all were traumatized. Without without a single exception, those males were all immigrants, refugees, whatever you call them. Almost all of them from North Africa and Middle East, especially North Africa. Following this is even more important, I think, to mention. What do you think happened? This took place. This is not just some kind of a conspiracy theory. This actually happened. It took place. What would you think if over 1,200 young women were harassed, sexually abused, and raped? What would the police of that nation do? They did big, huge nothing. I repeat, German police did nothing. In fact, they were ordered. German police were ordered, police forces were ordered not to do anything, not to take any action, not to do any kind of arrest, not even a single arrest. Now ask yourself, why, right? I mean, who would not ask that question? Why? Because they didn't want to look racist. Because they knew who did that. If they took action and start arresting those people, I just told you, describe them, oh, that was going to be racist. So under the auspices of racism, stuff like this has been happening. I just gave you one example. This is an ongoing situation, not only in Germany, but in England, but in Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Holland, Belgium, France, all these nations, this type of, maybe not to the extent, but this type of situation is constantly happening. In England, there is a gang of Pakistanis. They are basically finding and capturing and luring the young girls, sexually abusing them, selling them for prostitution. Uh, this is happening all over. But I tell you what, this, like I said, all these nations, this has been happening. Eventually, all these Western European nations who were showing extreme tolerance and trying to basically extend their helping hand to these people coming from those nations because they were hopeless there. Offer them shelter, food, job, living, even if they don't work, they were giving them salary. They give them everything. In return, the thank you that they were getting was this, what I just described. And in fact, they were also chanting on streets to change, to force the host nation's culture and religion. Eventually, those nations wised up. Today, Denmark came with harsh, harsh, harsh regulations and kicking them out or getting ready to kick them out. Same thing with Sweden. Same thing with Germany. Same thing with Holland. They woke up. They woke up to the reality. They start seeing the game, the globalist game. They start seeing the refugee invasion, which I just shared with you. That George Soros, one of the actions of George Soros, flooding the Western nations with refugees from less fortunate, let's say, be politically correct here countries. Unfortunately, in the United States right now, the level of craziness is to the extent that European nations are looking at the United States and saying, thinking, you're crazy. You're crazy. You don't know what's going on. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what's going to happen to you. I want to give you another example. I live in Minnesota. I'm from Minnesota, and I used to take a train, light rail, to Minneapolis to go to work. I was driving to the train station. I was parking my car, and I was getting the train in about 35 40 minutes total travel time going to work in downtown Minneapolis. Obviously, the time slots that I was riding the train was 8 in the morning or maybe 7:30 in the morning, and then let's say after 5 o'clock, right? It was when everybody's going back and forth, commuting for work. But I heard this about 10 p.m. This happened about 10 p.m. There was a group of Somali youth. They attacked people with machetes, tire irons, and axes on this train. And this is not an exaggeration. They attack, they pick and choose whites and whites only to attack. Now, what do you think police did in Minneapolis? Big, huge, nothing. That didn't even make the news. I learned that not from national news or local news, not even through YouTube. I know it because it's a fact and I know it. I'm not going to tell you how. And I tell you what, I was talking about this with somebody I was working with. This lady, she said her ex-husband was actually on that train and he was one of those people who were attacked. He was lucky that, I just told you what happened in Germany and police took no action. Exact same dynamics taking place in Minnesota. Police took no action. Same for the same concerns. Oh, we don't want to be seen as racist because they were Somali refugees. This is how Somali refugees were thanking to the people of Minnesota. And by the way, state of Minnesota gave is so welcoming, not only accepted all these Somali people, but made one of them, Ilhan Omar, representative. She's a congresswoman representing state of Minnesota. And that's how Somali youth was thanking people of Minnesota. These things are happening, will continue to happen. And that's exactly the agenda that I was sharing with you. I will share again. This guy, George Soros. That's how his organization are working very cleverly, very diligently. And they have in their they have extremely deep pockets. We're talking hundreds of billions of dollars to organize these kinds of events and to shut up the governments, states, police departments, you name it, to be able to further their agendas, which is none other than the globalist agenda, as the four pillars of it that is listed right behind me. And here is a question mark there. Can you handle progress? The question, can you handle progress? Do you see now the term progressive, where that comes from? Progressive. This is what progressives are pushing for, the liberals, the woke culture. Now, I want to talk about woke culture. I want to touch base something. You can find people taking polls on streets, about the upcoming election in November of this year, 2024, and asking people, who they're going to vote for. Just kind of a survey like a thing. Maybe formal. Some of them are more formal or less formal. But anyway, what I'm trying to tell you is this: I was appalled by people's responses who say I'm going to vote for Biden. In my opinion, voting is a serious business. When you're voting for somebody, you got to know, you got to believe that this person is going to kind of somewhat align with your thinking, and you kind of expect this and this and this and this from this person. You got to be able to articulate the reasons why you're voting, in this case, for Biden. And to my surprise, or maybe, I shouldn't be surprised. Maybe I'm naive that I'm still being surprised. The answers that Biden voters were given, not a single one of them, I repeat, not a single one of them, no exception, can actually articulate the reasons why they're voting for Biden. Not a single one of them. They say a lot of things, all garbage, filler words, but not an actual substance. There's not even slightest amount of substance. None of them, even though they're asked explicitly and particularly, why would you why would you be voting for Biden? What do you expect him to do? Or what are your top three priorities, or five or six priorities, political priorities? What would that be? Inflation, foreign relations, illegal immigration, general economy. What what can you say that you think Biden will do better next term if he stays in power, or what is it that Trump would not be able to do? None of them can ever even remotely articulate why they're voting for Biden, other than saying stupid filler words, using those kind of things. Oh, maybe, what I kind of like, Biden is, it's not like, what it doesn't do, what it does do, but what it didn't do, what it stands for. He is an honest guy. These kinds of extremely empty, shallow, stupid statements. I can tell you a few things for voting for Trump. I voted for him, obviously, and I will definitely, without a question. God bless. Yes, of course, I will vote for Donald J. Trump. Number one, to resolve the illegal immigration issue. Number two, withdraw this country from the Paris Accord on climate change. Number three, unemployment, inflation. Look at the numbers, if you don't believe me, under his administration for all those things. Inflation, unemployment was 50 plus years lowest, absolute lowest in his term. When did the Ukraine war started? Under Biden. When did Israel attack Gaza? Under Biden. Now you can say, of course, hey, not everybody, you can't put everything under Biden. It just happened. Well, think about how it's handled. Ukraine, Israel. Are you supporting Israel doing what they're doing? Are you supporting the policies for Ukraine and Russian war? Foreign relations. Just spend some time and sit down, and especially if you're voting for Biden, sit down and try to study. I know you're not going to do it. All all the reasons that people are voting for Biden is not Biden himself. They're voting for Biden because they want to vote against Trump. That's why they're voting for Biden. They're not necessarily voting for Biden. There is nothing in that individual to vote for. Nothing. He's a disaster. But they're voting against Trump. And when you ask them, what makes you hate Trump that much, or what makes you think he's not suitable for the job of presidency, they again cannot articulate a thing, not a single thing, not a single smart thing, tangible policy. They cannot say anything. All they can say is Trump is horrible. And you ask, what makes you think he's horrible? And they say this and that. Hey, this is a serious business. Somebody's going to be in charge of the entire nation, and you're going to be voting for him or against him. You're responsible knowing at least a couple things about what presidents do or expected to do or expected not to do, such as what Biden is doing by allowing illegal immigrants to invade this country, to flood this country. He weaponized illegal immigration to invade this nation. They are trying to replace you. Do you sense that? Are you seeing that? They are trying to change the social and cultural landscape of this country everywhere, all over. Do you not see that? So, folks, that's why when Trump was saying, I'm standing between you and them, he used the term them. When he was saying them, he was referring to these globalist evil, likes of George Soros, those who are in under his influence, under his control. Democrats are nothing but puppets of the globalist masters, doing everything within their power to destroy the American nation, American society, to destroy everything American in this country, to establish the globalist New World Order single world government entity. Just be aware of that. Think about it again before voting. It is amazing, though. There's a reason why I am optimistic. With all this evil going on, with all this evil going on, I'm optimistic. Why? Today, Gen Z, the average age is between 18 to 24. 65% of them are supporting Trump. That's a beautiful thing to see. Military establishment is heavily leaning toward Trump. Same thing with the police departments and police force. When you look at the predictive analyses and statistics in the map, what you see on the map is huge red color. America is covered with some few blue states on the fringes, East Coast and West Coast, California, New York, in the middle, Colorado, a few more. Even in the state of Minnesota, which is a heavily liberal state, only the city of Minneapolis is blue. The rest of it is red. Although it is a Democratic voting state, without an exception, the last 24 years or so. Still, I know from my personal experience, people are extremely fed up in this liberal state as well. Democrats, when they're playing this game, they're shooting themselves in the foot. Because you know what? In addition to that, Gen Z, African Americans are now, they've been voting for Democrats for ages. Right now, they're turning away in drones. A lot of Democrats are seeing what's happening. Those people have been voting Democrat for decades. They're turning away from Democratic establishment because they started seeing the Democratic Party is not what it used to be. Democratic establishment, they became from the Democratic Party gradually and eventually today, they are nothing but the puppets of the George Soros and likes the globalist evil. And they're shooting themselves in the foot because they're losing. They are bringing those people to gain voter base because they know they're losing. And when they're bringing more and more illegals, they're losing their constituency. And they're trying to replace their constituency with those illegals. This is what you need to see. If you let these people, if you let the democratic evils in power, let's say next 20 years, your children or you're not going to be able to recognize this nation. Look at today, all the homeless people in California, Portland, Oregon, and other similar places. Look at the crisis in Chicago, in New York City, and multiply that with 10. You're going to see this nation utterly destroyed because they have to destroy the power center of the world, the United States of America, to be able to rebuild it in their imagination, which will be none other than in the service of pure evil. That's why Pure evil George Soros and likes and his ilks are at work. Thank you very much for watching my video. Be careful again in November 2024.